Having that group really helped us work though coming to grips with it. r/ask Reddit by online camps. How would you feel about a high school class called therapy, where kids are taught how to set boundaries and deal with their emotions in a healthy manner? As a former high school student, I can tell you 60% of them would not take it seriously. Edit. This is a rough estimate. Depending on the class dynamic, it could be anything between 100% of the class and like 50, I'd say. The other way would be more realistic, though I feel like, I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't. I doubt any high school system in the world right now would be able to do this properly, and therapy is a very individual thing. I don't think it can be taught in class. Edit. I feel like most people here are forgetting about the fact that this is high school we are talking about. I recently finished it and moved on to A levels. I speak from experience when I say this won't work in a high school environment. Edit 2. Some of you think that I'm saying that teenagers are the sole problem here. It's not that at all. Teachers, school administration and students combined make this really hard to pull off, almost impossible even. I'm not talking about group counseling or group therapy. I'm talking about a full-on lesson time for this. Not all kids need it or know the importance of it, and lesson disruption is commonplace in high schools. Needless to say, in my middle school through years 6 to 8 we had a specific group of people deemed by the grade counselor, who was a licensed or studying psychologist most of the time, and held these occasional therapy sessions, which helped kids a lot. I personally went to her a ton. She helped me get through a time where I had practically no friends and was a target for constant bullying. My friend is training to be a social worker, and I'm currently working in a school. They do sessions on friendship/romantic relationships, boundaries, and consent, and other modules which try to teach social and emotional healthy behaviors. It's not quite the same as what you're saying, but it does have an element of this. I think the key is you start young and then continue to build on it in different ways. The point I would make though is that this is not for teachers to teach, it's for social workers or therapists. I agree. Ex-social worker here. The sessions would be fine, but therapy designed by civil servants, vetted by school district superintendents, then approved by parents groups, delivered by educators? No. That idea scares me. Can you imagine the fighting over the curriculum? Whose values would be front and center? Teachers are already expected to be everything to students. The list on them keeps growing. Let them do well in what they are trained to do. Realistically, if anyone knows you're in that class, you're going to get bullied. And this is why high school sucks. No realistic mental health support. Mental health should be assessed and treated by a doctor. Teachers have no training on the matter and should not be entrusted with any responsibility regarding mental health. The sad truth is that kids are learning socially as well as mentally, so they have to engage with each other naturally for them to develop skills and defenses on their own. If an adult protects them all through high school, they will become a recluse as soon as they have to go into the real world. I would have firmly ignored about everything in it as a teenager at that age. I was okay in high school, but everything got set up for depression I have had since college that I haven't been able to shake. But looking back at me in high school, I don't think anyone could have gotten through. I had a series of a few sessions with a therapist my mom wanted my brother and I to do with her. I hated them and wouldn't have considered going to any other therapist then, even though the therapist was really worried about me. I was 25 before I ever considered therapy. And you're never ready until you choose to go. My parents took me to people. Waste of money. None of it meant anything until I walked in myself. 23 for me, and couldn't agree more. It's really scary to lay everything out for the first time, and I don't think I could have done it if I personally wasn't ready. I had a class in HS called Life Skills that was all about emotional health. It was a good thing. Sadly, one of our classmates, he and his girlfriend were both in the LS class, passed away mid-year. He fell out of a boat and couldn't swim. Having that group really helped us work though coming to grips with it. RIP Tiger. Sounds like a swimming class would have been a better use of time. There's already a massive push going on in the US to incorporate this kind of learning into classrooms in the form of social emotional learning. Research shows that it has to be comprehensive, though, and is actually most effective for early adolescents, roughly ages 8 to 14. This is the stage when youth are both most receptive to such learning and, statistically, will benefit the most from it. Sequestering it into a single classroom setting at the high school level would not be of much use. One of the biggest points of vulnerability for at-risk youth is the transition into high school. Additionally, while high schoolers can benefit from SEL, the effect is dampened somewhat for reasons unclear. One hypothesis is simply that teenagers are at a point in their lives where they're growing more independent, and as a result they're not as receptive to being taught life skills by adults in positions of authority. Assuming this to be the case, SEL could actually have a detrimental effect, as it interferes with other critical development in youths. Whatever the case may be, I maintain that it's important to focus more on SEL in adolescence, and that a class called therapy would not be in youth's best interests. I think for the class to be effective it would definitely require a competent, experienced teacher who listens. This is due to half of the class would treat it like a joke, just as they do sex addiction. You'd be surprised how much you can influence a student simply by giving them a comfortable place to sit. The school I worked at had a bunch of small sofas and other second-hand bits of living room furniture for students to use during group therapy. They were able to put their feet up and act like normal people instead of institutional members. I don't think it's a bad idea, but a lot of people wouldn't take it seriously, and the only ones that would take it seriously brings us to B. It's generally not something most people, especially the ones that needed it, want to do as a group, especially with classmates. I like the idea in general, but would make it more broad than general. Like a self-care class, where kids learn about sleep, diet, exercise, communication, mindfulness, and yes, boundaries and emotional regulation could be part of the curriculum like the idea in general, but would make it more broad than general. Not everyone would be engaged, but could make a big difference to the overall well-being of the school like the idea in general, but would make it more broad than general. I think it would need to be emotional health, rather than therapy like the idea in general, but would make it more broad than general. And I think it would be a great idea if incorporated as a required class or a part of existing health class curriculum, like the idea in general, but would make it more broad than general. Emotional health is a much better name. One more apply like the idea in general, but would make it more broad than general. My school board implemented a unit like this into my ethics class for this year. We'll be talking about toxic vs non-toxic relationships, and how to deal with emotions. Though, I'm not too sure how well this will play out. I have a feeling a lot of students will just make fun of the class, and not take it seriously. I feel like this is because schools just pussyfoot around issues. We can't alarm our students, everyone, so let's just soften the real world issues they'll be learning about. I'm sure the sudden shock and trauma they'll experience once they graduate and are no longer in a safe, contained environment won't have long-term consequences to their mental states at all. Rape, war, murder, abuse, etc. All just ignored in hopes that the students will have a nice, boring life and never experience these things. Then when they do, it's in a bad place with no support, and where they can be taken advantage of, and they have no context or experience or knowledge on how they should be handling the situation. It's just a bad way to handle these things, But as you've said, this has to get through a school board and parents and blah blah blah, so it'll probably never change. I know this will be an unpopular opinion, but no. First things first, school has a lot of problems that need to fixed, including more and better teachers who are paid a lot more than they currently are, as well as teaching some more relevant classes, more of a variety of classes, and having better after school activities. Not to mention the possible addition of a technical job training such as electricians or mechanics, as well as a route that is more focused on studying and preparing for college. But that is another discussion. I would rather a class that teaches life skills a little more rapid fire, but hitting several important ones like how credit cards work, how to manage money, how to find a job, and so on. So for starters, with everything else that needs to be added, this is farther down the list at the very least. Also, a therapy class for high school students would likely be unnecessary for a lot of students, a means to bully other for some. and not taken seriously by those that actually need it. Back when I was in high school, a class like that would officially be designated daydream time in my mind. Not to mention that many kids have learned to deal with stuff like that on their own, and the fact that different people process emotions and such through different means. So there would be no blanket method to teach the class, making it difficult to really have an impact on everyone involved. They've started to introduce the idea of talking about feelings at my school. I wouldn't take it serious, even though it would help. It really depends on the people that teach it. I don't know. Don't call it therapy though. That would either scare off the people that need it most or attract the wrong kinds of people. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment to express your thoughts on this video. Don't forget to click the bell icon. Thanks for watching, and I hope this cat has made your day.